I'm here today with Matthew Ashdown, who is originally from the United Kingdom but has lived in Canada for about 20 years now. So he's probably more Canadian than British by now. And he's very involved with Genekeys, and they're not so well known yet in Europe, but in Canada and America, I believe it is big thing, and they're very interesting. And so I thought I would invite Matthew and to have a little chat about Genekeys and about himself, of course. So what I would like to ask you first is how did you come onto this spiritual path, and then how did you find the Genekeys, and how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, good question. I would say that I began my spiritual path. I can almost remember somebody handing me a book on numerology once when I was about 24 or 25. And that was kind of my first foray into it. And I wouldn't say that I thought of it as a spiritual path at that time, but it kind of led me down that. And then I remember being in California. So I've been meditating for a few years. And then I remember being in California in 2008 and being introduced to the work of Paramhansa Yogananda and his self-realization fellowship. And so I started meditating, and then I began working with a living guru, and it was it was really cool, and I was finding a lot of great practice with my meditation, finding a lot of deep inner peace along the way. And then at the same time, I felt that it's still, he would say, man's only purpose on earth is to know God, to know spirit. And I thought, well, okay, I get that fundamentally, but I need some direction in life. I'm a little bit lost. And somebody introduced me to the Genekeys. I guess it was about 2012. So I was lost for a couple more years before I found something that was helpful. And I had to sit with it for a while. So the Genekeys is based on Eastern philosophy. It's grown out of the I Ching. The hexagrams, the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, which some people are very familiar with. So even if you don't have the Genekeys in parts of Europe yet, the I Ching has got a very strong foundation and understanding. And so, this developed partly from the I Ching, partly from another system called human design. And it's really branched out to become this very intriguing path of exploration and opening people up to awareness of their path to awakening. It's like everybody has a path to awakening. Mine was through looking lost and trying all these different things out for a while, and it's right there in my Genekeys. And then for everybody else, it's like we've got our own pathway to awakening. And so I just, at first few years, I was just reading the book like you've done. Mm-hmm. And I was getting stuff out of it. I was finding it very helpful. It really resonated for me. And then I got a reading from somebody, and it just went, hit me right in the solar plexus, and really woke me up to the depth of the work. And so I started working with it more myself, and then eventually talking to another person in the Genekeys community, started doing readings for other people, consultations, and then before you knew it, I was hosting group workshops. So I started by doing a lot in person, and then started shifting online, although I preferred in person. But now that we've got everything happening with this worldwide lockdown, it definitely makes the online work a lot easier to accomplish things.
Yes, for sure. So for someone who hasn't heard about the Genekeys, could you just short or roughly describe what it's about? We've heard it's connected to the I Ching, and I think there's 64 Genekeys, and everybody's got different ones. But maybe for someone who doesn't know, just a little, or maybe you can explain one of your Genekeys that might help.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So everybody gets a different Genekeys chart. It's based upon your birth date, time, location. So it does have elements of astrology worked into it. The difference being is that we don't talk in the I Ching about what's coming. In the I Ching, in the Genekeys about what's coming up in the immediate future necessarily. It's more about whatever you're facing in life, whatever challenges. It's like they're here to almost coax these gifts out of us. And so each gene key is associated with a certain gift, and is a shadow and a gift and what's known as a city. And so there's 11 of these in your chart based upon your birth time and date. And so it's this journey of then contemplating them in your own life, seeing how they play a role. It's one thing to have a guidance from myself and initiate that process, but even still, it's like you still got to go in, look at it for yourself. Otherwise, it's always going to be like a secondhand reading as opposed to a direct experience of it. So in order to get that direct experience, it's like, yeah, you sit with the gene key. So interestingly enough, I've got the second gene key as my life's work. So the life's work is the first gene key that we'll tend to contemplate. It's what we're here to do. It's what's most visible. And interestingly enough, the gift is orientation. And it's about moving from dislocation to orientation, which explained most of my early life, right? Is that at times I could feel like I was in the flow and had direction, orientation. And other times I felt dislocated, disconnected, lost. I didn't know which way I was going. I had many different passions and many different likes, but I couldn't bring them together into something that I wanted to share with others. And the gene keys really opened me up. And in fact, the second gene key is one of the most feminine of all the gene keys. So for me, it's been about surrendering to the power of the divine feminine in my life and having greater trust in that. So the orientation comes from a space of deep trust. It's like I follow the synchronicities in life. Synchronicities guide me. Synchronicities are an important part of somebody who's got this second gene key. And so, but it's important for anybody really, as we start to wake up to our true natures, we start seeing these things coming our way that are, it's like, oh, I was just thinking about that. Or I was just talking to somebody else who is talking about this same program or something like that, which is kind of how Gene Keys came into my life. And so you have your birth date, your birth chart, and you can start, and you could spend a week looking at each of them, right? Some people, like me, I've spent 8 years working with it because it's a guide map for me in any situation that I go through, because I can almost look at it and just be like, okay, something's coming up here, because we look at the shadows. So the shadows are those parts of ourselves that we don't like so much. And yet in them, there's a gift. There's this gift waiting to emerge. So one of the ones I've got twice in my chart, the shadow is reaction. And so I'd have this tendency to react to things in my world, which just propagates more reaction and gets reactive people coming back at you. And so I got to learn to kind of understand that reactive tendency, but also recognize that in it is the gift. The gift of the 49th gene key is revolution. So my reaction is the shadow. It comes from anger. It comes from reacting to another in that way. At the gift frequency of revolution, it's about bringing changes to whatever we're a part of. It could be bringing changes to the way people think. It could be bringing changes to the world at large, at society level, those kinds of things. And it's coming from a place of I've been with my anger. I recognize my anger, and I'm also, my intention is to bring about shifts and changes through a focus on what it is that we want, rather than fighting the old. So rather than being a reactionary, it's being a revolutionary, bringing in the vision of what is possible, bringing in the vision of what is new. So I have to go through the reaction. I have to see the things in the world, in my relationships, that drive me mental, that drive me to react. And then I can sit with them. And thankfully, that's what the Gene Keys has been such a gift for me, because I always used to have that reactive tendency, and I would hide from the world, and I didn't want to be seen. And whereas now it's like the reactions in my life have diminished incredibly. There's a lot less of them. But when they do happen, I know that I can bring my awareness to it. So if I'm reacting to something, it could be something in the news, it could be something world events. When I'm reacting to it, I can bring that awareness in. And so that's that gift of revolution. So whatever your gifts are in your Gene Keys chart, each of them speaks to some aspect of your life. There's the life's work, which is what you're here to do and learn. There's another one called the evolution, which is what you're really here to learn. It's one of the most challenging ones for people to master in their life. So yeah, it really does. When I first started doing them, I thought, well, these are kind of cool. Well, for other people, I mean, it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. And I didn't have much confidence in it necessarily, that just because it worked for me, it was going to work for everybody else. But I've yet to have anyone come back to me and say they didn't resonate with anything. They will often share that there was something that connected for them, something that resonated, that really spoke to them, that explained something that they were going through in life. And so that's why I love sharing it, because it can just be so applicable to your day-to-day, your challenges, and it can help you understand what gifts you have that you can bring to those challenges that other people are waiting for, right? So it's like they're waiting for you to bring that piece of the puzzle.
And they're definitely very good, because I think it was 2017 that you guys were here in visiting us in Germany, and you did the Genekeys for me, but also for my family, and it was amazing how spot on they were, and even with the children, in character traits, and in well, we could see that how they would sometimes go into the shadow of being negative, or in other situations they would move into the gift, and you could see them fly almost. And it was really good to have that. It's been very helpful. Also for myself, it can be a challenge, though. What I found is to move out of the shadow, the negative side of you, into the gift. How would you advise people to make that transformation or that movement? Because you might get stuck in the shadow, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that was something that connected my yoga practice with my work with the Genekeys, was that breath plays a big part in it. And first, as we look at this, we notice it, we acknowledge, oh gosh, look at what I'm doing here. There's the shadow, and it's in my Genekeys. Go figure. And then it's, like you said, it's that at first, or you might feel a shame around that. Or you might feel guilty for coming from that place. And it's important to just be present to that. And in time, it's like there becomes an acceptance of it. So we're no longer denying it. We're accepting that, okay, yeah, this has been expressing through me in this way. Again, taking that example of reaction for me, it would be to notice it. Okay, I'm reacting, to step away, to sit with it. And for me, breathing through that, breathing through the reaction, is that acceptance of it. It's accepting this is what is happening in this moment. It's accepting the wound that's underneath it, because our reactions are because of a wounding of some kind. The shadows of any Genekeys is because there was a wounding, quite often imprinted on us at a young age. So I feel it's fantastic that kids are growing up in families where their parents can support them in holding them in the frequency of their gifts. I think that's such a, imagine if we'd all had that at school. It'd be like Harry Potter every day, and because we're living from those gifts. And so at first it's looking and not feeling good about it. It's noticing how you feel, the guilt or the shame or the frustration or the anger or whatever it might be. And not, initially you might be judging yourself for it. And you come to this space of recognition that it's simply an emotion that's moving through you. It's our judgment that kind of traps it. So if it's the guilt or the shame, then the judgment traps it within our body. And if we can breathe, if we can circulate, and if we can acknowledge that it's there and accept that it's there, we begin this process of alchemy. So alchemy is like turning lead into gold at a physical level, right? Or as certain metals into gold. And that's what we're kind of doing with our emotions, is we're turning these emotional aspects of our being, or these shadows, which are also very mental in a way, is that we're transmuting them into something that we never even thought was possible. Like when the gift really arises out of us, it can surprise us. And it's just asking for us to kind of step away. So it is different with each person, and depending on what wounds are being brought to the surface, this is a contemplative path. It's not therapeutic, meaning that there might be times when you explore this that you might benefit from sharing with another. You know, we often have buddies in the Genekeys system, where it's a buddy is somebody who's there just to listen, not to give advice or give feedback, but just to listen while you share your frustration, your anger, and just allow you to share it. And then if you invite the input, then you can do so. But it's, you know, it's recognizing that there might be times when, if you are asking for guidance and advice, that it's somebody who really has something or knows something to offer you in that. So, you know, sometimes people can find it frustrating when they're working with me in that sense that I'm not telling them what to do. But this is about claiming our own inner authority. That's what the contemplation does. Nobody else can tell you you've got that shadow or that gift. It comes down to you recognizing it for yourself and claiming it for yourself. And as you do so, that's when the magic happens. And so it can feel a little heavy at first when people get into the shadow, but we got this 90-10 rule, which is 90% of the time we focus on the gift in the city, and 10% of the time we focus on the shadow. And that's just a nice little reminder, so that anytime we end up doing any kind of shadow work, as it's called, that we remember that to aim for the light, right? To bring the light into that. Because otherwise it's like, oh yes, you know, people would say, oh yes, you're Genekeys, you do shadow work. It's like, oh yeah, and we do gift work, and we work in so many different ways with this. It's a living transmission, so you can do mediumship with it, you could do energy healing work with it, you could do acupuncture work with it. There's people who've actually they've determined the acupuncture points on the body for each of the Genekeys. So it's about getting creative. It's bringing out our creativity.
Beautiful.
Does that help understand that a little bit?
I think it would help. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you're now doing private consultations, and you're doing group work online at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
People, you can find Matthew on his website, www.matthewashdown.ca. So what are your plans for the future? What are your goals? What do you want to reach with doing your Genekeys work? Because I do feel that you will continue with Genekeys. It is sort of your life's mission. So
yes.
You know, because this has been a very special year. Not all good, but not all bad either. And so I'm just wondering, where do you think this will lead you? What path is there for you?
Well, it's you know, I'm definitely very committed to the Genekeys community, and so it's a real community that's being nurtured. So although I'm bringing this work within it, there's this real sense of there's a vision code working out together. One of the things that the Genekeys really stands for is an idea called synarchy. And synarchy is this, we're moving away out of the hierarchical, competitive ways of the old ways of doing business, where it was dog eat dog, that kind of thing. And we're moving into a world of collaboration and synergy. So I'm really enjoying opening up to working with other people who work with the Genekeys in different ways. And I've been invited to be part of what's called the Venus sequence. There's an immersion. I've been invited to facilitate men's groups for that. And so a big part of it has also been in that trusting where I'm being guided, because I don't necessarily fully see. And as you know, it's like, whoever made a 5-year plan, and now look at what 2020 is bringing. So it's, you know, I would love to be able to travel again with this. I'd love to, you know, I've got connections now. This work has opened me up to working with people in Australia, working with people in Europe, working with people in the US, and it's really great in that way. And I'm getting quite involved with Genekeys publishing and doing transcription work and working with some other things that are coming out very soon. And so it's exciting to be part of the community in that sense. I would always love to keep facilitating and keep doing group consults, because I'm so passionate when I share it with others. And so, you know, to travel, to share this work with as many people as I can, as many people as want to listen. to be able to, I've also got I've got a huge passion for the sacred sites of the world. And so I've long envisioned working with groups and traveling to these different sacred sites, which are like acupuncture points on the planet. And so working with people in that way is, yeah, just continuing to be there. And yes, to trust in the mystery, because I think there's so much shaking up right now that, you know, a lot of people didn't envision themselves having an online business in the way that we have now. And many people are adapting, and many people, my wife is realizing how much she loves doing online, and how much flexibility it brings to her life, because she's able to travel around and well, not travel too far right now, but travel around a bit, and at least on the island. And so we can work from wherever we're at. And so to continue to be able to do that, to settle into our own longer term community, you know, is all part of what we're working with together. And that's too, is like to continue to grow our relationship and the synergy in our relationship, because together there's just so much magic that happens when we work together and we're on the same page. And so that's yeah, it's just exciting to see what will unfold there. So yeah.
Great, that sounds good. I'd love for that to happen, that we can all work together instead of working against each other, you know. It would be great if even not only spiritual businesses, but any sort of business would work together and would help and support each other. So that's a lovely idea for the future. I want to thank you very much for joining me. It's been a lovely chat. And so I will put down your website and any other information in the comments when I put the video on. But again, thank you very much for getting up early and joining me here.
Wasn't too early.
And who knows, we might get to chat again. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Ursula. Okay.